Welcome back to Slam Shenanigans. This video is going to be all about testing out a new Kubota SVL 97-2. This particular unit belongs to a friend of mine and his company, and so I don't like to be the friend that takes advantage of anybody, so what I did is I said I would rent this. He was actually going to let me borrow it for fuel, but I said no, I want to pay basically the equivalent of a rental so I can try it out, because I'm in the market for a skid steer and I wanted to not go in blindly. Since I have basically zero experience on compact track loaders and maybe a couple hours on wheeled skid steers 40 years ago. So the first night I hauled it in on a Saturday, and this is me just trying to get used to it with the grapple first, and these logs are extremely heavy. I was very impressed with the power of the unit, and I'm just really literally getting used to the controls and trying to figure the machine out. So I wanted to do that before I actually started moving dirt. The whole purpose of the trial is I wanted to see how this would couple with my excavator in terms of moving dirt. Excavators are great for digging. Skid steers are definitely better for moving. You can't really move dirt with a skid steer unless it's like 20-30 feet away. So here it is. Was, like I said, I was impressed with the power of it so far. I was taking a picture here just so I knew how he put it back on. I put the dirt bucket back on the trailer. So now I've swapped it out to a dirt bucket, and I believe I had about 20 yards or so piled up, and that's what I was kind of doing, is so I could judge my timing. I'd do 20-yard piles, and it's basically 60 scoops out of a third yard bucket in my excavator. And so this is me in the first morning. I believe this is, well, this might have been Saturday, I don't know, but this was the first lift that I put on where I'm trying to build this area up, and working through that. Moved a lot of dirt fast. I was impressed. I had been moving this with my John Deere 3033R, which is, I don't know, a third the size of the bucket. Faster on the ground because I was going slow on the compact track loader because it was my buddy's and I did not want to abuse it, but I moved dirt probably 3 to 4 times faster, even driving slower. So this is the first lift, and now I'm kind of just smoothing it out here, and I'll track it in. I believe you'll see later on in the video I track it in with the Kubota here, and then I also ran a little walk behind excavator on it, tandem drum, older unit, but it really works well. And I was surprised how well the skid steer here actually packed it down, and I was also back dragging with a little bit of pressure, so that also helped. But just doing it in lifts, you can see that I started out probably 6 feet lower than where my mill is up there, and just kind of I needed to build all this up because what I want to do is move that mill over. And again, this is just to see how I like the skid steers and how much more efficient I could be with them moving dirt. And keep in mind, like I said earlier, this is the first time literally that I've ever run a compact track loader. And overall, very, very impressed, and I'll get through some of the differences between this and a different unit that I'm going to test in video number 2. I'll actually demo a Takeuchi TL12 V2 from my dealer. So my excavator is a Takeuchi, and my dealer offered to let me run it for a weekend. So, but this one's about the Kubota. Overall, at first I thought the cab was fairly loud, and he doesn't have a radio in his, so I ended up, because it's so loud, the first night I ran it in slow mode in first gear all the time and probably 3/4 throttle, just because, again, I needed to get used to it, and it was my buddy's. So here, I think I'd already finished moving that 20-yard pile, and I wanted to see how it actually dug. This is not dirt that has been scooped up for the excavator and piled. It's actually digging out of the hillside, and if I kind of hit a little bit of a rock there, and because this is my friend's, I did not want to dig down there, so I kind of passed on that thought, and I went back to moving from the excavator pile where it's just fresh dirt and everything was loose. And this is where you saw that was after compacting. This is where I'm getting the dirt from. So what I'm actually doing is there's multiple things going on here. I'm expanding my mill area so I can push it over, and then I'm also going to try and eventually expand my equipment parking area. And the way I'm getting the dirt is by removing an old pond dam that just doesn't hold water anyways. And my initial plan, which I'll go over it probably in the next video, was to take that woodshed on the right, make about 3 or 4 of them, and push them up against this bank. And I'll talk about what I ended up doing in the next video. But so it's a lot of rinse and repeat. Dig, pile up the dirt, and then grab the compact track loader, Kubota here, and just put dirt where I need it in a lift, and then I'll come back, smooth it out, tamp it down, and track it in. And then I think I used the compactor on the majority of the lifts here, so everything was good. But you can see my mill there. Again, this is to test the skid steers, but I had to do it with a purpose, right? So a lot of dirt to move for not having a purpose. So what I'm doing is I'm getting this level even with the skid steer, even with the mill on the right there, and then I'm going to take that mill and move it out. Here's a still shot of the wood yard like I was talking about. We're going to move that back. Here's kind of where I think I left it at one of the stopping points. And then just again, rinse and repeat. So the mill where it's at right now is very tight. So when I'm moving logs in there, it's, you know, you got to do 20-point turns to maneuver around there because it's hillside and storage on the right and then the mill. So I'm hoping to move this mill completely out, the road down to this area where the track loader is traversing back and forth. Will come basically where the mill is, gradually down to that next level, and then where I'm digging out is another level again, which will be a trailer turnaround area. So just getting the feel for it. I tried high speed a couple times, the rabbit speed. It seemed to me, and I talked to my buddy about this, like the tracks are a little tight, but up here in the mountains, it's usually best to run them tighter. And again, it was his unit, this is his livelihood, so I just stayed in turtle mode pretty much the entire time I tested this thing. Felt like there was like no problem at all, just pushing into this pile and grabbing huge bucketfuls of dirt. So I moved a lot of dirt really quickly. I think I moved 160 yards total in a good solid day and a couple hours in the evening, the first night after I took the grapple off. But again, here it is. I'm just kind of smoothing it out, back dragging, tracking it in, getting that compaction pretty decent. And you can see I'm building up here. So I probably got a couple feet now. I think it's 2 or 3 lifts in. Yeah, the Kubota, that's where I'm kind of starting to scrape off where the road will end up being. You can see the sawdust from the mill's current operations. Tracking it in back and forth, getting more familiar with the Kubota, more comfortable watching the backup camera, turning around. My hands are getting some muscle memory now. But yeah, this thing would just stick into the pile like it was nothing. And you got I think it's a full yard plus in that bucket. Don't quote me on specs, but I think it's an 84-inch bucket. I don't know. It's wide. So, but the thing with when I borrowed his is that I only had 20 yards built up. So a lot of the time was spent in my excavator making more dirt piles. So in the day and evening that I had it, I don't think I put six or so hours on it. It was pretty small. Again, don't quote me. If my buddy watches this, he'll probably say, no, it was this much. But yeah, so I had to provide my dirt in between moving it. So it really gave me a good idea of how much dirt I can dig and move in an hour. And with this one, I want to say it was just over 20 yards I could dig and move and level and track in about an hour. So, and again, this is my first time on a compact track loader. So I've been running equipment all my life, so I had that for me, but this is a new piece of equipment. The actual turns are a little less intuitive because I'm used to excavator controls and dozer controls, but it's actually very intuitive. If you haven't grown up around all those, you basically push the stick in the direction you want to go, whether you're going forward or reverse, which if you haven't driven one of these, it may not make sense, but if you have, it does. So again, I'm just digging, leveling, piling, moving. And this was all to give me a good idea of what it was. And again, the Kubota was my first, so I was very, very impressed with it. But I had nothing to judge it against either, so that'll be in video too. So hopefully If you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe, hit that bell, and then you'll find the follow-up video with the Takeuchi and what I think about that. And then I'll start talking more about the comparison of those. I'm going to kind of leave this first video just as my impressions of the Kubota. And like I said, overall, very, very impressed. Machine flat out just moves a lot of dirt, and I wasn't used to that. I've run big loaders before, and they don't compare. They're completely different use. And obviously, buckets are much bigger, but if you compare this to like a compact tractor like I have, it was night and day. I mean, like I said, I was driving over the ground slower in this than I do on my tractor, but it's just so much faster. And the movement of your body to do that and accomplish that is less in a skid steer than it is in a tractor. In a tractor, you're shifting down as you come into the pile. You're manipulating the bucket. You get your hand on the wheel. You got to shift to go into reverse. You're grabbing different gears as you're coming from there to here. I mean, this is like 160 yards or so. It's quite a bit of a move. I mean, if this was a job, I probably would have a dump truck to do that, but this is kind of where we left. Almost even with the mill there. My buddy was trying to get ready for a job on Monday, so he actually called me about 2 o'clock or so and said, "Hey, can you bring it down?" So I kind of got in a rush at the end there, but this is kind of where we left it off, and this is where I was talking about possibly moving the shed back, but we'll talk about the next video. Overall, super impressed with the Kubota, and it was a good unit, and I'll talk about the differences in the next video. So thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, and see you on the next one.